The Switch has revolutionized the way video games are played. Instead of having to separate your time, money, and games into two different worlds, the Switch has married them together. One system with everything you need to play on the go or on the TV. It's united two different playstyles across decades of separation. The Switch's brilliance is shown through its success. It has deeply resonated with people, from being highly convenient, affordable, and having a massive game library. There really isn't much the Switch has done wrong. It even offers the opportunity for everyone to catch up on the best the previous generation had. It delivered a second chance to some of Nintendo's best efforts that passed by most, or were overlooked because of misunderstandings and general disinterest. Its elegant design will go down as one of the most iconic game systems of all time, like many other Nintendo consoles. The Switch has gone through a few revisions. There are 4 different versions of the Switch. Although 3 of them look almost identical, there are differences with each version. Though small, they fix and alter the way the original console is played, creating multiple ways to please those who choose to use it. The Switch has made gamers' lives more dynamic. We're now at a time where playing home console games on the go is a reality. The Switch has become a force in the gaming world, surging forward without any regard of what happened in the past generation, fueling innovation and creativity of the likes we didn't know we'd see. Collectors and players alike have gravitated toward it with a fervor, making games and accessories highly sought after. With the many changes and all the models that have been made, the question arises, have we gained anything from these revisions? As the Wii U was hitting its premature sunset, Nintendo knew that they needed to do something to spark hope and interest in their home console offering. In mid-2015, a mere 3 years after the launch of the Wii U, Nintendo announced that they were working on a new console, effectively shutting down the Wii U and any interest anybody had in it. Everything then shifted focus to the console Nintendo was developing. It was given the codename NX. The console was shrouded in mystery, as if it were being made in a secret lair somewhere. Rumors were all over the place, with reports coming in that it had a central screen with detachable controllers that could be used as 2 single controllers, and that you could put it in a dock and it would play on your TV, and then you could take it on the go like a Game Boy. Nothing even remotely resembling anything like that had ever made it into mainstream gaming. It didn't seem like it was possible to do. The idea of taking off the controllers was bizarre, and it didn't fit with what Nintendo had done for decades. They did make a few Game & Watch handhelds that did have detachable controllers, but those were so old, nobody thought Nintendo would base their main console off that idea. This, in fact, turned out to be true. When we finally got to see it, it all made sense. Nintendo has a knack for making really creative and innovative ways to get us to play their games. The Switch launched in early 2017. It came in 2 color variations, one with gray Joy-Cons, and the other version it's commonly advertised with, the neon blue and red Joy-Cons. Stock was limited, and they ended up being difficult to find. It launched alongside the highly acclaimed The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was a dagger right into the hearts of all those who had waited so long to get it on the Wii U. This proved to be the right decision. Most everybody who bought the Switch also picked up a copy of Breath of the Wild. These two will always be thought of together. The Switch functioned exactly the way it was presented. It was easy to go back and forth from handheld mode and docked mode. The detachable Joy-Cons are also very functional and versatile. They work best when they're used together, but they can be used in multiple playstyles. You can play games with them attached to the screen, detached separately as individual controllers, or hooked to the Joy-Con grip, which acts like a standalone controller. Though the Pro Controller has always been the superior way to play, this was the out-of-the-box solution for a controller. This Switch version has 32 gigs of built-in memory. That's not much space for anything. A micro SD card is essential if you plan on buying any digital games. This first Switch has 2.5 to 6.5 hours of battery life on a single charge. The spectrum of time is based on which game you are playing. Breath of the Wild will play for about 3 hours. Simpler titles will give you more time. There must have been a massive amount of thought put into this console when Nintendo was developing it. It's so unique compared to what has ever been made. It's great having the ability to seamlessly go from playing a game on the TV, then to take that same game and console on the go. This has to be one of Nintendo's finest moments. To meld their home and portable markets so perfectly has been a wonder to witness. Nintendo has a history of revising their better-selling consoles. Think back to consoles like the NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, DS, Wii, and 3DS. Each of those has had at least one revision. The DS had 4 and the 3DS had 6. It's no surprise that Nintendo has changed and revised the Switch. In mid-2019, Nintendo released their first Switch revision. It's identical to the original Switch console. It was quietly rolled out and slowly replaced the original Switch. This new Switch was easily identified by its red box, unlike the launch model that has a white box. That was the easiest way to tell which model you were buying or had. The Switch version 2, which it has become known as, looks and feels exactly like the original model, except for one thing that was a major change. The battery life was improved drastically. That's because this Switch has a new chipset. The battery life has been increased to 4.5 to 9 hours of continuous gameplay on a single charge, which is significantly better than the original Switch. Other than that, it's more or less the same. However, that increased battery life is a difference maker. There's no question that the second version of the Switch is better than the original. You get to play longer, and that's the ultimate goal when it comes to gaming handhelds. In 2019, Nintendo drastically changed the design and function of the Switch. They released the Switch Lite. This new Switch model is smaller, lighter, less expensive, and is a handheld only. It no longer has the ability to play games on a TV. It's a Switch that doesn't switch. That, for some people, is exactly what they're looking for. The Switch Lite is a fantastic handheld. It has a great feel and has changed up a few things that optimize gaming on the go. The Joy-Cons no longer detach, which makes sense for a handheld. It feels more solid than the traditional Switch. Eliminating a few of the moving parts has made it a nice compact handheld console. It also has a D-pad on the left Joy-Con that's great for games that were designed with a D-pad in mind. Finally, Nintendo got rid of the 4 buttons. They have never been an ideal replacement for a D-pad, making this control scheme in line with modern controllers. The buttons also feel a little more in line with a more traditional controller, being a little softer compared to the more clicky feel of the buttons on the Switch's Joy-Cons. Most Switch games are compatible with the Switch Lite, which is great for people who are on a budget or enjoy handheld gaming. The one major drawback to the Switch Lite is the battery. It's more in line with what the launch Switch has compared to the second version, which is really unfortunate because everything else about it is fantastic. There are also a few that said that some of the in-game text can be difficult to read on the screen, but that most likely depends on which game you're playing. The Switch undoubtedly superseded the 3DS and has now become a primary focus for Nintendo's home and handheld markets. Having a system that fills the gap left by the handheld-only 3DS makes sense for Nintendo and people who like that type of gaming. The Switch Lite is being sold alongside the traditional Switch and it seems to be holding its own. If you like handheld gaming, the Switch Lite is a great option. Nintendo released the latest Switch in October of 2021. Unlike the version 2 Switch, this model changed and improved quite a few things. The biggest and most obvious difference is the OLED screen, which gives this model its name. It's called the OLED model. Not quite as creative as the Switch itself, but it's simple and easy to remember. At least it wasn't named in the same vein as the 3DS consoles. It could have been called the new Switch XL OLED model. This screen is gorgeous. Every game looks amazing on it. This is the primary selling point to this Switch version. The screen is also larger than the other models, and it's noticeably larger. The system itself is also slightly bigger, which isn't significant by any means. This version has fixed one of the biggest complaining points of the other models. The tiny kickstand has been replaced with a robust kickstand that's as long as the console itself. There were so many ridiculous videos during the launch of the original Switch about how useless the kickstand was and could make your gameplay awful. In their defense, the kickstand is small and is easily compromised. But on the other hand, who cares? Playing the Switch in handheld mode with the Joy-Cons attached has worked perfectly fine. Most cases even offer a built-in stand. The dock has also been upgraded with a built-in wired LAN port. Now you don't have to go out and buy an external adapter. The beauty of this model is that it's compatible with all the accessories and games that have been made for the Switch over the years. Even older Switch models will work with the upgraded dock. The downside to the OLED Switch is that it's $50 more than the Switch version 2 and $150 more than the Switch Lite. Is a larger model with an upgraded screen worth the added cost? Well, that's something only you can decide. There's no question that the OLED model is the best Switch currently available. Its build quality is superior to every other Switch version, and that screen does look really nice. If you're looking for an upgrade, this is definitely an upgrade from the previous models. We're now at a time where playing home console games on the go is a reality. The Switch has made gamers' lives more dynamic. You don't have to choose which games you play on the go or at home, which has always been difficult to prioritize. It's revolutionized the way video games are played. Instead of having to separate your time, money, and games into two different worlds, the Switch has married them together. One system with everything you need to play on the go or on your TV. It's united two different playstyles across decades of separation. The Switch's brilliance has shown through its success, and it has deeply resonated with people. From being highly convenient, affordable, and having a massive game library, there really isn't much the Switch has done wrong. It even offers the opportunity for everyone to catch up on the best the previous generation had. The Switch has become a force in the gaming world, surging forward without any regard of what happened in the past generation, fueling innovation and creativity of the likes we didn't know we'd see. Collectors and players alike have gravitated toward it with a fervor, making games and accessories highly sought after. Whether you play on the original Switch, the second version, Switch Lite, or OLED model, the important thing is, you're playing a Switch.